Hello and welcome to the 1100 Project with me, Stuart White. This is episode 11, and today we're going to be focusing on pre-launch and the things that happen in the build-up to the launch of your book. We'll be looking at some of the things that I have done, some of the things that have been successful, and other things which haven't been, and some of the things that maybe you could try out, whether you're a self-published or traditionally published author, in the lead up to your own book launch. So, my book launch for Ghosts of Mars is going to be on Monday, the 13th of February. I'm recording this on Friday, the 10th of February, so 3 days out. And what I wanted to talk about in this episode was the things that I've done and how those have gone for me. And then we'll talk a little bit later on about the actual launch itself, what I'm doing in preparation for that, and obviously how things like pre-order sales and other little campaigns have gone in the build-up. So first of all, let's talk about the couple of weeks before your book launches. Now, I convinced myself way back when I created the timeline for my publication that I was going to spend these 2 weeks focused and busy and doing things which meant that I wouldn't think too much about the impending launch date and the fact that the book was going to be out in the world and in people's hands. And the reality of it is that whilst I have tried to remain busy, I have sadly lacked enough focus to completely shut out everything else that's happening. And so I found that I have been on social media maybe a little bit more than I'd planned to be, that I had been tracking things like my KDP notification and author launchpad. I've been focusing a lot on things, basically things that I shouldn't be, outcome-based things which are not within my control and which are not turning the dial forward in any way. And that's something, I guess, that at every stage of writing, we can be quite guilty of. I know that, for example, when you send your book out to an agent, it can be quite easy to spend your time wishing the time away so that you get a response because you're desperate to hear from them, constantly checking your emails, refresh, and all that. And also spending time, and this does happen, and I think you're kidding yourself if you say that you don't do this, but you'll look at, like, for example, the agent's social media and see, are they active? Are they online? Have they said anything? Are they tweeted about this really exciting submission that's come into their inbox? And then you obviously hope that it's yours and you're going to hear back from them and all the rest of the things that you do. You know, and I think that's a similar pattern to when you're on submission to publishers as well. I remember doing that back in 2018 when I was in submission, looking at editors' social medias and such things, hoping that they would say something that sounded a bit like my book and so on. And it's unproductive that time, and it's really hard to I guess get over it and just say, well, I'm not going to think about that big thing that's on the horizon for me, and to focus upon what I can do beyond that that's going to progress me. And I know that the best thing I can do right now and during the last few weeks has been to continue to work on the other books, the next thing that's going to be coming out for me, as well as staying on top of some of the little promotional and publicity things that I've been doing as well the last couple of weeks, which I'm going to come to in a second. So yeah, it has been a tough couple of weeks, if I'm honest, because I've not been as focused and zoned out from the book launches I'd like to have been, or as that I was mentally telling myself I would be at this stage. And again, sometimes people are better at this than others, but I think I'm probably somewhere in the middle, and so some of you will probably be able to relate to this feeling when you're waiting for a big thing to happen. So yes, not as productive as I'd like to have been, but what I have been productive with is working on how I might widen the awareness of my book and make sure that the right people, the audience for my book, have more of an opportunity of hearing about it and reading it. And so I've been very busy on the schools and librarian side of things, trying to get in touch with as many as I can, make them aware of my book. I did a big giveaway, for example, and I think just over 200 primary school teachers and librarians and some secondary school teachers as well started following me and entered that giveaway, which is great. They'll now all be aware of that book and hopefully pass that on to any kids who they think it might be appropriate to. You know, they might have kids with type 1 diabetes in their class, or kids who love space and there's not enough books out there for them to read about space adventures. And so I'm hoping that work will pay off. Maybe not in the short term, but in the long term. I also have arranged a couple of school visits as well, a couple of virtual school visits, including one on World Book Day, which will be fun. Chat to, I think it's all of the year 5 and 6 maybe at the school I'm going to on World Book Day, virtually. So that'll be fun as well. And I think they're going to be asking me some questions, and that's what I love about chatting to kids is the questions you get. As you know, probably, or most of you know, my daughter is she's just coming up to 8 now, and she is full of questions about space, about everything, to be honest, in the world, and beyond it. But she asked me loads, and I love that, and I hope that I'll have a similar experience when I chat to those kids when I'm on the virtual visit with them. But yeah, so I'm doing that as well. And Florian, who you all know, who helps me at Right Mentor as well, has been helping me with some of the press releases and getting word of the book out to various associations and writing organisations, space agencies as well. We've written to all the big ones, NASA, JPL, ESA, and so on, to see if any of them will feature it. To the various charities that I'm involved with, including Diabetes UK, and see if they would be interested in promoting the book. I'm donating 10% of any profits in this book to Diabetes UK, which is a charity I care deeply about helping young people cope with diagnosis and management of the condition when they are told about it as young people. It can be a really difficult time for kids, and especially in primary school and even in nursery, as a lot of kids who are diagnosed are. To manage that and to come to terms with it, and Diabetes UK does a lot of work in that area. And so yes, I'm hoping that they might help spread the word about the book as well for young kids that they work with who might be interested. And so yeah, there's been a lot of work going on to sort of widen awareness of the book and so on. So I'm hoping that will pay dividends, and that people will hear about it. And for me, it's not just about um, the money side of things or sales or anything else. There is a lot of it is about this being a book that I've written for young people who maybe struggle to fit in, for people who feel a bit different, for people who are struggling to manage illness at a young age. And there's a lot in there that I hope that kids will get out themselves when they read the book. So it is about more than my writing or my career or selling books. It's more about the young people that are going to pick up the book and what they'll get out of it. And I think that that's an important thing to always consider when when you're thinking about your book. Is it's about the reader ultimately, and then you come secondary to that. So I'm hoping that the approach I've taken will help in that regard. So yeah, so that's the things that I've been doing over the last few weeks from the publicity side of things. I've also been preparing for the actual launch party itself. So my friends Melissa and Florian have agreed to co-host that, which is nice of them. It takes a wee bit of the pressure off me, so they'll sort of do the introduction, and they'll lead the games and the quiz and all that kind of stuff, the admin side of things on the launch night, which is good because it means I can just relax a little bit and enjoy myself and try and interact with the people that are actually there through the chat and so on Zoom. If you can come to that, then there's a sign up on my Twitter page. It's the pinned tweet, so you can click on the link there to register. It's for Zoom. There's I think at the moment there's over 100 people signed up, but and there's 100 capacity obviously in Zoom. So I'm hoping that even if you sign up now, that obviously some people won't come, so there should still be space for everyone that wants to be there live. And if it turns out that you can't, for whatever reason, then I'll be also simultaneously live streaming it to YouTube, where there'll also be a replay to watch it again later. So you can join in and watch via that medium as well if you can't get onto the Zoom one. So yeah, looking forward to that. As I say, we've got lots organised. We'll do a wee reading and chat a little bit about the building of the book and the people involved in that, and the journey very briefly. And we'll be doing a little quiz as well, a fun quiz. I'll not give away what the content is, but it'll be good. And we'll do a wee Q&A as well if you want to come along and ask me any questions about the book or about what I've been doing, even if it's this project or if it's something else self-publishing related, then you're welcome to do that. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to the launch, and I'm hoping that lots of my friends will be able to come along and I'll be able to enjoy myself, because a lot of the process for me over the last 8 or 9 months has been very hard work. It's a lot of work on top of everything else I do in my life, and I'm hoping that I can get this moment to enjoy that and to sit back and reflect upon it, and say, well, I've done the best job I can. I've produced the best book that I can. I've marketed it in the best way that I can. I've got awareness and publicity of it out there the best that I can as well for my limited scope. um, it can be hard constantly comparing yourself to, for example, when you see, like friends who have got their book in supermarkets or in all the big Waterstones. They get a book of the month feature. There's a lot been done for them in the marketing side of things, and that's obviously the big benefit, isn't it, of going via that traditional publishing route. And yeah, it can be quite difficult at times when you're cold emailing almost everyone to try and get a little bit of attention. But you've got to plug away, and it's a long game. I'm very much viewing this as a long game. It's not about any short term wins for me. I hope that things go well with this book and it launches well, but it's about building a career, a slow and steady increase in terms of readership and all those other things that matter. And so, yeah, we'll get there, and it might not be as lightning quick overnight success stories that we sometimes see, but it's a slow build, and I'm here for the long haul, so I'm perfectly happy with that. So next thing I was going to chat a little bit about was about the feelings in the build up to launch, because it can be quite an emotional and confusing time for anyone, whether you're traditionally or self-published. And I think I have struggled a wee bit with it emotionally. I try to remain calm and cool, and pretend I'm not too nervous or worried as we get closer, but I think in reality I am. And I think this is maybe, if you follow me on social media, this may be reflected in how I've been on there, where I've maybe not said anything for a few days, and then suddenly I'll have a flurry of activity, and that's usually when those anxious and worried feelings are consuming my brain. So I feel like I have to do something. I have to take action to help settle those, and you'll see that if you have a look online at how I'm behaving during that time. And that can be tricky, because I'm trying not to overload my my face and my thoughts and so on into the sphere of other writers. It can be, like a lot of people find it quite annoying when someone's got a book out and they're constantly messaging about it. And so I have been trying to be balanced about that. But yeah, sometimes those feelings just get the better of you, and you can't help that. And so I guess that's something to consider if you're maybe never had a book out, or you're not at that stage yet. That it might seem annoying for that someone's always talking about their book, and it might seem like they're being boastful, or sort of trying to be pushy about their book and get it in your face. And I'm pretty convinced that is not the case most of the time. It's just more likely that the person is very anxious about the whole thing, and the only way to relieve some of that anxiety is to take some action, and that can come in the form of them talking about the book and maybe seeming like they're overdoing it. And so that's just worth considering if you see someone like that. I'm not I'm not trying to excuse my own over eagerness, but yeah, that is a consideration that's worth having in your head as you watch a new author around about lunchtime, especially. So let's talk a little bit about the actual numbers of it, because I've not actually mentioned this before. As you know, with this project, the target is to get 1,000 sales of the book and 100 reviews within 12 months. Now, if I do that, I'm going to be absolutely delighted. But in order to do that, as with anything else, you've got to break down a big target into small goals that you work towards in the short term, and then you've got to create a system, because this is the key thing about goal setting, and a lot of people get confused about this. It's not enough just to set a goal. You have to put in place a series of systems that are going to include regular habits that are going to allow you to work towards that goal and to then hopefully achieve it. If I just said I want to sell 100 books this month and didn't put in a system or a series of things that I'm going to do or habits that are going to help me achieve that, then I probably wouldn't achieve that. And so it's what, like I always say, the process matters more than the outcome. And so when we're thinking about a big outcome like this, you've got to think, okay, how am I going to break it down first of all to make it more manageable in small chunks? But then also, how am I going to actually put in place systems that will allow me to achieve that and be successful? So anyway, that's sort of my overarching thinking when it comes to achieving things and to working towards goals. And for me, it's been about in terms of this pre-order phase, it's been about raising awareness. That's number one. And I talked a little bit earlier on about how I've been trying to do that. Number two is about ensuring that I make sure every single sale of the book counts and that everyone who buys the book feels valued and appreciated for having done that. And everyone who has mentioned it on social media that they've got the book, I've been conscious of saying thank you very much. I hope you enjoy it, etc. And I think I've got to be honest, I would probably just do that anyway, even if I wasn't sort of working towards a target. It's not necessarily about that, but I have seen people who, because they don't interact with people much on the socials, they don't get people tweeting about their book and so on. I think you're missing out on an opportunity to increase the circle of people that are aware of the book if you don't do that interaction as well. So that's obviously something I've been conscious of. But as you know, like most of you know me, have known me long enough to know that it's not just about this thing that makes me interact with people in the socials. I'm there all the time doing it anyway about various things. So yeah. So anyway, that's been one thing I've been conscious of. It's about every individual. It's not about the mass, and so that's, I think, helped me in terms of working towards that first goal. Now, the first goal that I actually set was by the time of publication, which is on Monday. That's 3 days from now. I wanted to be 100 sales pre-orders of the book, and I would have loved it to have been at 10 reviews. And I hoped that I might have been able to achieve that with all of the arcs that I sent out in advance to people, that they would leave that review for me. So in terms of the reviews, first of all, we're only 8 at the moment. So I'm hoping maybe 1 or 2 will creep in over the next couple of days and get me up towards the 10 that I'd been hoping for. What I have done is I've sort of, if I know that someone's read the book, I've maybe sent them a wee message saying thanks for reading the book. I hope you enjoyed it. But if you feel like you can, like, could you leave me a review in these places and so on? And obviously been polite about it. Sort of just a friendly follow up just to say I'd really appreciate that review. And it does help. It's interesting because I'll talk about this in another episode, but I've been doing a little bit of experimental Amazon ads over the pre-order period, and it's had some interesting insights into how many impressions and clicks and so on that the ad gets. I should say that my spend on it is really, really low. We're talking in the pence and the early pounds rather than anything substantial. So it's not like I'm spending hundreds of pounds in advertising. It's very, very minimal. But I thought I would experiment with it because that's what this whole project's about. And it's only a couple of quid. It's not much that I'm putting down on it. But anyway, the point is that there's been some interesting insights into how often my book is seen compared to the number of reviews that I've had as well. And that's maybe something for another episode to discuss. But as you'd imagine, there's a positive correlation between the number of times Amazon shows my book to other people and the number of reviews that you have, and also a correlation between when someone sees the book, the more reviews there are, the more clicks that you're getting on your link to your book as well. And so that's why I think reviews are so important, and why it will be important for me throughout this to continually be saying, if you can leave a review for the book, I would really appreciate that, and so on. And I hope that within the 12 months we can get to 100, but even if we fall short, whatever we get to, every little will help, and every individual who leaves the review, I'm really, really grateful for. So the first 8 that I've done it already, really, really, really grateful to them all. I think who have we got? We've got Rebecca, Emma, who else? Melissa, a few others, Kate as well, and Kirsten, and and Marie as well, and there's a couple of others as well in there, who probably won't be listening to this, so I won't name drop them for now. But yes, if you go onto my Amazon page, you'll see those reviews, and I'm really grateful for all of them. They're all so positive, and I guess the the difficult part comes when I inevitably meet someone that doesn't like the book, and the review that they leave is maybe less positive, and how I manage with that emotionally. And I know that people say you just ignore the bad reviews, you don't engage with them, and so on. And of course I'll try those things, but I am a sensitive wee soul, as many of us are, and so if I see someone be completely negative about the book, that might be tough to read. But do you know what? I've put myself out there. This is the thing about being an author. You're putting your work out there. You've got to expect that it won't be universally popular, and you'll have to just take the bad reviews with the good. So yeah, we're almost there with the reviews. If anyone's listening to this actually and has read the book or has a copy of the book and is ready to put in a wee review, I would always appreciate it on Amazon, Goodreads, or whichever other platform you are a member of, and it's handy for you to do. Okay, and then the sales side of things. Then the good news is I've surpassed that 100 pre-orders, which is amazing. I'm really, really pleased with that. I didn't think that we would get there, but interestingly, the last maybe 2 weeks or so has things have picked up. There was a nice wee surge around about cover reveal time, and then another surge in the last couple of weeks. And I do attribute a lot of that to the awareness that there's been out there for the book, the fact that I think a lot of my friends have bought the book in that time, because I've been putting it out there, and people have the best intentions and they want to support you, but sometimes life is busy and they can be forgetful, and you do have to keep visibility up and keep reminding people about it. And for the one or two people that I might annoy, and then you have to question if they are annoyed by it, are they truly a friend? And in that case, what are you losing if they decide to unfollow you or whatever? But for the one or two that maybe are annoyed, you've got all those other people that are like, oh yeah, I meant to go and buy that. Oh, and he's posted a wee link about that. Now I'll go and do it now, and so on. And I think I genuinely think that's okay. I don't ever look at someone and think, yeah, I'm going to unfollow you now because you have talked too much about your book. But you know, I guess some people maybe would find that too much. But anyway, I will continue to be who I am and to do what I think is right. And if that's at the small cost of people who don't really truly support me, then I think that's something we have to take as especially self-published authors who don't have anyone else really in your corner shouting about the book, or trying to get it in bookstores or to supermarkets or to foreign publishers for rights deals and so on. So I think we've just got to fight our own wee corner in the best way that we can. So that brings us back round nicely towards the bigger target. Because that first one has been met, it'd be easy to say, okay, well, let's just hope that if I continue to do the same thing, that I'll continue to get the same results. Now, I hope that I will continue to get the same results if I do that over the next 9 months, I should hit the target, and that would be amazing. But looking at all of the data on sales for a new release, you have about 90 days of what would determine to be the positive sales growth, and that's where you get the bulk of your sales. And after those 90 days, the sales do fall off a bit of a cliff edge, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Obviously, new releases get an advantageous position, and I think on that's a thing on the Amazon algorithm. They give them 90 days, I believe, of just that added visibility on the platform. And beyond that, you'd obviously have to use paid advertising to maybe get the same effect. So that's something to consider. And so if we get to the 90 days and maybe I haven't made a substantial number of sales towards that 1,000, then I'm going to have to start thinking about new things. But if I only wait until then we will see that fall off the cliff edge before we then start seeing the impact of anything new that I try. So it's important that I keep on top of things and stay dynamic and keep thinking, okay, well, what else can I be doing now on top of what I'm already doing? And I guess that's the life of a self-published author, is that you've got to worry about those things all the time. You can't relent on it, or you will suddenly just see the sales of your book disappear. And that's what I think some people find the toughest of. I've seen a lot of the forums and groups that I'm part of, people saying exactly that. They wish they could employ someone to deal with that side of things and they wouldn't have to worry about it. But again, unfortunately, I don't think the income that everyone gets would allow them to sort of employ an assistant to help them on that side of things. So you have to not only learn to do it, but also kind of learn to enjoy it and to make it part of your routine. And it's like the book that I've been reading recently is called Atomic Habits, and talks a lot about um, cementing habits as part of your routine by making it part of your identity. So it's very easy for us to just say, I'm just a writer. I'm not very good at marketing. I don't market. I don't do publicity. I don't do blah, blah, blah. And I'm only a writer. That's what I'm good at. And I'm going to stick to that. And if you do that, then that becomes your identity, and it becomes quite fixed and hard to alter. And you're not as malleable in terms of being an all-round authorpreneur, as they call it in the self-publishing world, where you have to be the master of many skills. Whereas if you say to yourself within your own identity, well, actually, I am a good marketer and I will do marketing and I'll get better at it because I'll continue to learn and experiment and see what works and so on. And if you just integrate that into your identity, then it becomes easier to do that as a fixed, regular habit that's part of your routine. And I think that's something that I'm getting my head around and alter my mindset a little bit about. And I think a lot of traditionally published authors would do well to consider this as well. I think there's far too many people I see that are saying things like, "Oh, I just want to write. I want someone else to deal with all that other stuff for me." Well, sorry to tell you, but unless you are at the very top of the pile, you should be doing all these things, and you would find that you have better results if you did. And the fact that you're not is only hampering you and your publisher, of course, and therefore hampering your ability to get further deals, because you're missing out on a lot of people, potential audience there, because you're not doing anything. And so I think that retraining your brain and your identity to integrate that you are a marketer, you are a publicist, you can do all of these things. It's not just down to someone who's also juggling 50 other books and trying to do the marketing and publicity for them at the same time as yours. And that's something that's worth considering as well, is that the marketers and publicists at your publisher are not just focused on your book. They've got a lot of others to manage depending on the size of their list. And so you're just not going to get it. And also the number one thing I think anyway, and you might disagree with me on this, but I think is that nobody can publicize and market your book like you can. You know the themes of your book. You know your potential audience. You know who you've written it for. You can talk about your book with an increased level of passion and knowledge that someone, as I say, who's juggling many projects would be able to do. And so that's why I think you just have to make that part of your identity and not shirk that responsibility, whether you're self-published or traditionally published. And so that's my strong opinion of the week on that front. So I'm really looking forward to Monday. The launch is going to be great. Most of the things that I've done in advance of it, are around about where I wanted them to be. The hard work seems to have paid off, and I don't just mean the hard work this year in the book, over the last 9 months in the book. I mean all the work that I've been doing throughout my writing career to understand the industry better, to create connections with people, to build my community and network, to understand how all of the little nuances of the various aspects and the timelines and the different paths, the different publishing paths, and how they can integrate and overlap with each other as well. Because I think I've learned a lot from traditional publishing that I've been able to apply to my own self-publishing project, and that has definitely helped with how things have gone for me. So I think that yes, the last 9 months has been a slog, but actually the last 10, 12, 14 years, whatever it's been, has been a slog. And I've learned a lot and I've been able to apply that into what I've been doing recently. And the good thing as well is just looking forward, I already have another book in the pipeline for maybe later this year. Another book, which again, it might even be at the tail end of this year or early next year. And then other books, and I've got this really sort of steady and heavy 18-month schedule ahead of me. And this I guess the key point. I talked a little bit earlier on about how maybe in the last week or two I've stalled a little bit in terms of moving forward and not thinking about this. But like the I've sort of been back heavy with my backloaded all my work, and all the work I've done previously will now come to fruition. And it's like, my wife's always saying to me, think about your future self. What could you do just now to make things easier for yourself in the future? And I've done things in the past that are helping me now. And the key is obviously to try and, even in the next few weeks, make sure that I'm still doing things that future Stuart will appreciate and not rue current Stuart's inability to do anything except sit there and think about the launch of my book. So yeah, that's another good bit of advice that I'm often told and don't always take as much as I should, but when I do take it, it really does help me. Okay, so that's enough, I think, for this episode of the 1100 project. I'll be back next week to talk a little bit about the launch and post-launch, because that's a funny wee period that not a lot of people actually talk about, do they? They don't talk about the feelings, and I know that as much as I've been high the last week or so thinking about the book being launched, I know that there's inevitably going to be a lull that's on the horizon for me once the book is actually launched. And I'll maybe come on and talk a little bit about that and my experience with it in the next episode. All right, so I hope to see lots of you on Monday night, but until then, may the force be with you.